Did you know that Perplexity added deep research for free inside its platform to all users? Well, in this video, I'm going to be exploring what deep research looks like inside Perplexity, and I'm also going to compare it to OpenAI's deep research that costs $200 a month to use. So be sure to stick around for the entire video. And if this is your first time to the channel, welcome. My name is Ryan, and my mission is to help you navigate the overwhelming world of artificial intelligence. And if you want to know my favorite AI tools and prompts that I use for marketing and content creation, be sure to get my free AI Marketing Essentials Guide. You can find the link for this in the video description or pinned comment below. Now, about a week ago, I made this video explaining some of the best free alternatives to OpenAI's deep research, and of course, right away, one of my subscribers let me know that Perplexity, a few hours later, now has its own deep research functionality. And if you go onto Perplexity's website, and again, this is open to all free users, and you just go to the website from the main screen and toggle the different options for searches, it's on auto by default, but you should see deep research. Now, there's a huge distinction here. If you're on the free plan, I think you only get a few of these per day that you can use. But if you're on Perplexity Pro, according to this FAQ document right here, it says Pro subscribers get unlimited deep research queries, while non-subscribers will have access to a limited number of answers per day. So think about this. For only $20 a month to access Perplexity Pro, I now have unlimited access to deep research versus before for $200 a month on ChatGPT Pro. That's the only way you can access OpenAI's version of deep research. So Perplexity is really shaking up the industry here once again by not only adding DeepSeek's R1 model, but now they've added deep research to compete with OpenAI's version. And this right here is an excellent resource on Perplexity's website all about deep research that I will leave a link to that in the video description below. This has a quick little video overview of what deep research looks like if you're using it for the first time. They talk about how it works here. They have another video demo explaining the vision capability where you can upload PDFs, you can upload images and pair deep research with that. They also talk about when to use deep research. So they have several examples of when you could use it. Anything finance related, right? So in this example, they give the prompt, what should I know before the markets open today? Anything financial related, right? Marketing, keyword research, market research, technology, current affairs, health, biography, travel. So if you don't even know where to get started, visit this page and use these resources for assistance on what to prompt deep research in Perplexity. Then they go on to talk about some of these benchmarks that deep research has passed. They talk about humanity's last exam and how it scored a 21.1% accuracy test. They talk about this simple QA, scored 93.9% accuracy. And then they also talk about the runtime stats. So it says here, it does not while completing most research tasks in under 3 minutes, which we're working to make even faster in the future. So they're claiming here, Perplexity is that these deep research tasks will take under 3 minutes. I don't know if that's on average. I don't know if that's every single time that you run it, regardless of how complex the prompt is. But regardless, this is an amazing resource on deep research, and I'd recommend checking it out. So now let's run a few examples comparing Perplexity's deep research to OpenAI's deep research. And again, keeping in mind that this does currently cost $200 to use. I'm sure they will downgrade this to plus users for $20 a month, maybe free users in the future, but you have to keep that in mind when comparing OpenAI's version versus Perplexity's. So this first example is going to be very basic, as all I'm going to do is ask Perplexity Deep Research to research the top AI news today. So I want to make sure I have this enabled first and foremost. What's also cool about Perplexity is you can have the option to toggle web, academic, or social. I'm going to leave on web and social, and then I'm going to click go. And I'm going to skip ahead after this output is complete. And I also have OpenAI's Deep Research running this in the background as well. All right, so that took a few minutes to generate a response on Perplexity's side, but on OpenAI's end, it took about 6 minutes just to generate a quick list of the top AI news today. I probably would have been better off going to Google at that point. But if we look at Perplexity's response here, what I like right away is if I click the sources, I get access to all of these different sources right here on the right-hand side. I notice a lot of Reddit coming up, but that's because I enabled the social feature. If you don't want Reddit, you would just get rid of that when you're running a prompt. And if I click the drop down for 62 sources, this goes through the step-by-step process as it was trying to figure out the top AI news for today, which is February 18th, 2025. And so here's the actual response right here. So it says Meta's 65 billion AI infrastructure, XAI's Grok 3 outperforms rivals in early benchmarks. That's probably the top story today. I like how it has the citations right here. I don't even have to click it. I can just hover over and it explains a blurb of what that citation is. DeepSeek's ascent in global scrutiny, ethical crossroads, healthcare AI, etc., etc. I could add these related prompts here if I want to keep going on this. But let's look at OpenAI's deep research responses. Now, again, it did take 6 minutes for a simple news response, but if I click it, what I do like about OpenAI is it's similar to DeepSeek, right? It explains its thought process step by step, and it's very detailed here. I'm gathering info on top AI news, blah, blah, blah. It's using Bing search to kind of help it with this. And if I scroll down, it really explains step by step what it's doing. It's a lot more detailed than what we get on Perplexity's deep research. And similar to Perplexity, if you click 25 sources, it lists all the different sources or citations that it got its news from step by step here. I understand, looks like my icon's in the way as I'm just noticing this, but you guys should see this regardless as I'm scrolling down. Now let's actually look at the response here. So it says major advancements in AI, Google's Gemini 2.0, AI accelerates, ethical issues. I'm not seeing anything here about Grok 3. So if I do Grok, yeah, so that's really interesting because Grok 3 is probably the top story right now in AI today. And the fact that OpenAI's deep research didn't mention this once is a little concerning in my opinion. So at least in this really quick example, have to give the nod to Perplexity, but I know it's very basic. So now let's try another example, and I'm going to prompt both Perplexity's deep research and OpenAI's deep research with the following prompt. Develop a comprehensive analysis comparing Perplexity's deep research versus OpenAI's deep research. Talk about the pricing, pros and cons of each one, and anything else important. What's going to be really interesting to see in these responses is any potential bias or censorship that we see from OpenAI, that we see from Perplexity. So I'm going to skip ahead after these answers are complete. All right, so now let's compare Perplexity's response when I asked it to compare their version of deep research to OpenAI's version of deep research. And first and foremost, this did come back quicker, but I wasn't surprised by that. But OpenAI's response, as you'll see I'm scrolling down, was way more in depth than what Perplexity's response gave me. And I really liked this answer from Perplexity, though. I like how they broke it up into the different categories: pricing models and accessibility, performance and accuracy, future sets and user experience, use cases and applications, limitations and challenges. And I must say, I also like going through this, how they bold important points here. OpenAI's cost $200 a month on the Pro plan. Perplexity's cost $20 a month on the Pro plan. They also bold important statistics and important data points paired with the citations in the answer right here. What I was also impressed with Perplexity in this response is they did give a lot of kudos to OpenAI's product. So down here, if I look at some of the limitations, talks about how Perplexity's reliance on surface level data, basically giving the nod that, hey, OpenAI's deep research platform is more advanced, it has better sources, but for only $20 a month, it's 1/10 of the cost, and Perplexity's deep research will be better for the everyday average user versus those looking to get in the weeds with research on OpenAI's product. Now, if we look at OpenAI's response comparing their deep research versus Perplexity's deep research, way more in depth. And this could be good if you're looking for an answer that's more in depth, but if you're just looking for something that's simple, Perplexity deep research gets the nod here. It could be very overwhelming. I mean, look at all this information just for the capabilities category. They had a whole thing about user experience, and that was about 5 paragraphs long. Yeah, right here. I mean, just super overwhelming in my opinion if we're just looking for quick bullet point answers. But again, I could also specify that in the prompt. One thing I did like about this response is this pros and cons summary category. I wish they would have put this towards the top, as I could literally look through the pros and cons of Perplexity deep research and also OpenAI's deep research. So it talks about the pricing, it talks about the sources, the citations, and basically what I'm getting from this is that OpenAI was a little more biased in their response, promoting their product over Perplexity's than Perplexity was. But again, that's subjective. I just thought it was that way when I was reading over this, comparing it to Perplexity's response. But you can come to your own conclusions here. But I think the big takeaway from this example is just how much more in detail and how in depth OpenAI's deep research was in its response. Again, it did take longer versus what we saw in Perplexity. I think if you're not trying to be overwhelmed and you're just looking for simple answers, Perplexity Deep Research gets the nod here. If you want something way more in depth where it's not missing a single bit of information, OpenAI's deep research might be the one for you. Now I'm going to run one more example, and this is going to be a bit more complex than the first two examples. I'm going to prompt Perplexity Deep Research and OpenAI with the following. With the increase in data centers and energy demand due to power AI models, suggest solutions for reducing energy consumption in the United States based on case studies. Make your solutions understandable to the average person. I'm going to click enter and then skip ahead after these outputs are complete. All right, so now let's compare these responses on Perplexity versus OpenAI's deep research. And again, keep in mind as I'm comparing these, I am not an expert in energy. I'm mostly looking at this from the context of how fast did I get results, what are the quality of these sources, how condensed is this information versus how in-depth is it overwhelming, what does the user interface look like, just things like that. And as I'm scrolling through my answer on Perplexity's deep research, I do like this looking at it right away. Cooling system innovations. So it breaks it down into there and it talks about recycling, harnessing natural climates, energy source optimization. Again, it has percentages. It links off to the citations here, AI-driven efficiency tools, infrastructure and policy changes. And I like how it has a conclusion here, just a one paragraph conclusion, kind of wrapping up what this whole prompt was. And now if I look at OpenAI's response, once again, this was 7 minutes long. So it took twice, if not 3 times longer than what Perplexity got me. But again, this is way more in depth than the answers Perplexity Deep Research provides. I do like this, right? There's a lot of good points here. It links off to the citations right here in the answer, categorizes it just like Perplexity does. This is so much more in depth. And if you're looking for as much detail as possible in a research prompt, OpenAI's deep research definitely excels at that. Another aspect that I like is if you scroll all the way down, it has a bullet list of all of the sources. I don't know if you guys remember, but when I was in high school or college doing research papers, I was accustomed to always looking at the end to cite my sources. So I do like how it has that here. But again, if we scroll up to the top, we can also toggle those sources on the right-hand side. It used 39 sources. I like the activity where it explains step by step its thought process. And then here are the sources right here. And lastly, as I was finalizing this video, I came across yet another update from Perplexity as they've added another version of DeepSeek's R1 model to its platform, open sourcing R1 1776, a version of DeepSeek's R1 model that has been post-trained to provide uncensored, unbiased, and factual information. I'll leave a link to this thread in the description below so you guys can look at this for more details. There's some benchmarks here, there's some graphs comparing all the different data versus the previous R1 model, but I like what Perplexity had to say right here. DeepSeek R1 rivals top reasoning models like O1 and O3 Mini. However, its usefulness is limited by its refusal to engage with topics censored by the CCP or Chinese Communist Party. We aim to always provide accurate answers, but had to address R1's censorship before using its reasoning capabilities. Another massive update from Perplexity. They have made some serious moves over the past several weeks and have become definitely a go-to solution for me on a daily basis now. I was using Perplexity a lot before, but over the past several weeks, I found myself using this more and more. And when I go into Perplexity, I've made a space of my personal brand. I have separate videos explaining this. What I realize now is in the instructions, we can now toggle these AI models to reasoning the R1 model. I don't know if this is the 1776 version, but I just saw that today. We can use R1 inside a Perplexity space along with OpenAI's O3 Mini. So now I want to hear your thoughts on Perplexity's deep research versus OpenAI's deep research. And here's my final 2 cents. I think for the average person, Perplexity deep research for only $20 a month with more queries, and remember, you can use this on the free plan of Perplexity. This is much better for the average user of AI. Versus OpenAI's deep research costs $200 behind ChatGPT Pro. It was more detailed, it was way more in depth. Sure, they might have had better sources resources here and there depending on the query that you provide it. But again, for the average person, I think Perplexity's deep research is better and more useful than OpenAI's deep research. So let me know your thoughts on all of this in the comments below. And if you've made it this far into the video, I appreciate you. Be sure to give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you found value. But most importantly, I hope you all have a great day.